India and United States have struck a trade deal. The result? American tariffs have been dropped to 18% for India. US President Donald Trump said the decision was reached after Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi agreed to stop buying Russian oil. Trump said that India would start to reduce its import taxes on US goods to zero and buy $500 billion worth of American products. While President Donald Trump claims that India has decided to stop importing Russian crude oil, so far there is no confirmation from the Indian side on that. India's refusal to stop buying Russian oil has been a bone of contention for months now, as Donald Trump is seeking an elusive end to the Ukraine war. Washington says India's continued purchase funds Russia's invasion of Ukraine. But that's far from the truth. Since the Ukraine war, discounted Russian crude has become the most visible symbol of New Delhi's strategic autonomy. Washington, in fact, had encouraged New Delhi to buy oil from Moscow at a price cap to stabilize global prices before the war. But narrative quickly changed as Donald Trump struggled to make good on a campaign pledge to quickly end the Russia-Ukraine conflict. He punished India by imposing tariffs without going through the Congress to achieve his economic and foreign policy aims. Now, if India has indeed assured the United States to stop buying Russian oil, will it actually aid Trump's plan to end the Ukraine war? Simply put, no. It could shape the edges of the conflict, but definitely won't put an end to it completely. The war's outcome will be decided on the battlefield and at the negotiating table between Russia and Ukraine, and not in trade talks between Washington and New Delhi. India is currently Russia's single largest seaborne crude buyer, taking roughly 35 to 40% of Russia's seaborne oil exports. But Moscow won't go broke if New Delhi decided to choke that pipeline. Russia already buys large volumes of Russian oil and gas. It would likely absorb part of the slack at even steeper discounts. Russia has built a shadow fleet of tankers, of alternate insurers and payment mechanisms to bypass these sanctions of the Western world. This system may be inefficient, but it's functional. If India exits, Russia's per-barrel earnings will fall, its budget deficit will widen, and military procurement might become costlier over time. But Russia has already shown that it's willing to cut civilian spending, it is wanting to devalue currency and reorient the economy towards the war. That's how long wars are financed. If India stops buying Russian oil, as Donald Trump claims, Moscow's funds will not dry up and the war will not automatically end. Russia might bleed more, war costs might rise, but total collapse will not follow. But if Moscow does feel the heat, will it affect ties with New Delhi then? Possibly not. India's relationship with Russia is often reduced to one headline of cheap oil. But oil is only the surface layer of a far deeper, older and a more complex partnership. India-Russia ties predate the Cold War binaries that dominate today's global world. The Soviet Union was India's most reliable partner at moments of strategic vulnerability. From vetoing UN resolutions after the 1971 war to transferring defense technology when Western powers imposed sanctions, that legacy still matters. Defense remains a real ballast of the India-Russia ties. Russia is not just a supplier, it's a strategic enabler. Nearly 60 to 70% of India's military hardware has Russian origins. From Sukhoi fighter jets and T-90 tanks to nuclear submarines leased to the Indian Navy, Moscow has provided capabilities no other partner was willing or politically able to offer. Crucially, Russia has been far more open to technology transfer and joint production than most Western countries. Projects like the BrahMos missile are not buyer-seller arrangements, but they're co-development partnerships that embed Russian technology into India's defense ecosystem. Now, India is slowly diversifying. United States, French and Israeli systems now exist alongside Russian ones in India's arsenal. But diversification is not replacement. For the next decade at least, Russia will remain indispensable to India's military readiness. That depth makes the relationship structurally different from India's newer partnerships. Russia is also central to India's civil nuclear program. The Kudankulam nuclear plant, which is India's largest, was built with Russian cooperation, and future reactors are planned. In space as well, despite India's growing indigenous capabilities, cooperation continues in satellite navigation, human spaceflight training and launch support. Geopolitically, Russia remains India's gateway to Central Asia and the Arctic, regions that are rich in energy, minerals and strategic transit routes. The international North-South transport corridor linking India to Russia via Iran and Central Asia is a long-term bet on multipolar connectivity beyond Western-controlled sea lanes. These dimensions may not make headlines, but they shape India's long strategic calculus. Washington's approach to Russia has been uncompromising. Sanctions, export controls, secondary penalties, they're all designed not just to punish Moscow, but also to limit its global partnerships. As India and Russia tie up that trade deal, there might come some expectations, if not formal conditions, from Washington. Whether those conditions are laid on defense procurement, technology choices, or financial transparency, that remains to be seen. Now, this trade deal between India and the United States may accelerate New Delhi's westward economic pivot, but it will not erase the logic of keeping Russia engaged. India's Russia policy is about strategic autonomy. New Delhi's objective is to avoid over-dependence on any one single power, whether it's the United States, Russia, or China. Russia offers leverage, it offers balance and options. The US offers scale, technology, and global economic integration. Now, India's challenge is to extract both value from all of these partners without becoming captive to any one of them. That balancing act will get harder as global polarization deepens. But India has shown time and again that it is willing to absorb diplomatic pressure to protect long-term interests. So while the world makes binary choices, India has so far chosen strategic pluralism, and that policy will not change anytime soon.
Fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.